Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Your Homegirls podcast. I'm Sharon.
I'm Fatima.
And I'm Jillian.
So I wanted to ask you guys, have you ever gotten one of those emails, usually in your spam, but sometimes not, claiming you have some inheritance? And it goes on with this whole spiel of details about how you have this like distant family member in Africa, specifically in Nigeria. Most of the time they stay.
Nigerian prince?
Yeah. Yes, the Nigerian prince emails. Have you ever gotten that?
I'm a Nigerian queen by now.
Yeah. I know, me too.
So the first time I ever got one of those, I was in high school and I thought that it was real until I showed my father and he's like, I'm sorry, hun, we don't have any family in Nigeria and you're not a princess. And I'm glad I brought it to my dad because I didn't know I was getting scammed. Yeah. And I almost could have gotten scammed. And I was at the age where I was making a little bit of income, like maybe like a couple $100, like with my like part-time job. Yeah. But it was wild. So I wanted to talk a little bit about scams today. Have you guys experienced anything like that personally or have heard any stories?
Literally every time I get an e-transfer from the CRA, I'm like, I know this is a scam, but like, what's the harm in accepting it?
Yes, I know. Those are so tempting. No, it's like always like $9,500. Like, just click the link now.
Mine's always like 420 something, like 420. But mine's always like $425 from the CRA, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, like, but how are they going to get my information if I just accept this e-transfer? Like, I should just do it. But I mean, I don't.
Yeah, but like, especially when it's around tax season, it's hard to know if I don't know. I still struggle sometimes thinking, is this real or not? Because sometimes they time it like you'll just file your taxes and then you get that email or text and you're like, oh, wow, that was fast.
I know. I got one probably like mid-January. I was like, you idiots. I don't file my taxes till like the deadline. Like the day of. Like,
April 30th.
Like, yeah, literally. I'm like, obviously this is fake. But helpful hint, the CRA will never e-transfer you. Yeah. They will direct deposit or send you a check.
Yeah, it's wild. I always seem to get those spam calls, especially around tax season, saying that like I committed a fraud or like, and I'm like, what the hell, you're committed a fraud? What is this, like Inception? Like what the hell? Literally. I'm like, what the hell? Anyways, there's a lot of that happening and a lot of people fall victim to it, right?
You know, it's really funny actually. I, for the longest time, thought that I was just getting those spam emails from the National Student Loan Service of Canada. Oh. And it was legit. I ignored my email.
You didn't pay your student loan
for 2 years. I was in school, so
okay, good.
It wasn't like time to repay, but it was just like reminders to like renew my like status or whatever with my OSAP loan. But the government of Canada does such a bad job formatting their emails and stuff and their websites. It legit looks like a scam.
Yeah, and well, you know what? Sometimes your email will register these particular emails as scam, like the way that it's set up, and then it sometimes has that little alarm or whatever, like a message saying, "Is this a scam? Report it," or whatever. And automatically, when you see that, you just assume. That's why I started looking through my scam. It should be a scam folder, really, but my spam folder, because sometimes legit emails will go in there, and that kind of stresses me out because I'm like, now I actually have to differentiate which is which. Like, it's a whole job now, sitting there for like half an hour scoping through all these like creepy scam emails and like telling me I'm like a Nigerian princess. And then just to find like or
the Ministry of Defense or something from some foreign country,
or like a bill from a hospital. And I'm like, we live in Canada, baby girl. Like,
it's
my
insane.
medical shit free.
You gotta
under 25.
And you gotta look at like the email, like the actual email address, because like I've gotten some that are from Amazon as well, and I'm like, is this real or not? But then you click on the email address and it has Amazon in there, but it also has like 35 like Amazon, other words,
baby girl, hashtag like $sign
princess.
I think those ones are so funny. Like, you're not even trying. No. Like, you're like do better. Like, just throw like a little period there right before the @ symbol and I'm gonna miss it, you know? Like, do better at scamming me.
But they also know who to target. Like, I feel like a lot of scammers, especially like credit card scammers, or those duct cleaning services, they always target older
Are
people.
those scams?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, if it was a legit thing that kept bugging me.
No, that's a scam.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought they just kept harassing you.
I mean,
I never
maybe some of them,
registered.
but
Yeah.
if honestly, if you're a duct cleaner and your business model is to just repeatedly call people till they block you,
Yeah.
do better.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
It does
you're-
always sound like it's the same person.
yeah. It is. Okay, this reminds me, have you guys heard about what's going on with Jen Shaw from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
Oh, you
The
told me about
best
that.
reality-
Tell
yeah,
me.
So this bitch, craziest shit ever. So, God, last year, I guess, beginning of last year, maybe end of 2021, I think. Don't quote me on that timeline, but she was arrested, and they aired it on the episode of Real Housewives of her like being apprehended. It was awesome, but she was arrested. Her company was essentially targeting like vulnerable individuals, so like a lot of elderly people and stuff like that, and selling their information to people who were then scamming and frauding them.
Oh my god.
Yeah. To the tune of like, you know, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like people spending like their last pennies on these like investments and stuff. And Jen Shaw was selling this information. And we've heard some of the victim like testimonies, I guess, like coming out and publicizing it and talking about their experience. But the crazy thing, I mean, aside from the crime itself with the fraud, Jen Shaw maintained her innocence for like the longest time. She took all of her mom's like retirement and savings,
Oh, I didn't know about that.
put towards her defense to the tune of millions of dollars, left her elderly mother with nothing, and ended up just pleading guilty.
Interesting. Just to plead guilty.
Mm-hmm. So
Why would
she
she
just
do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she's just crazy. Like, I think if I had to guess what Miss Shaw's deal is I think she wanted to like maintain her innocence and like maintain her image, and she was probably hoping that she'd get off. And then I think she realized it was a little bleak, and people maybe weren't as on her side as she anticipated.
So she's a little delusional.
A little delusional, like due to the fact that she was defrauding like vulnerable people.
Yeah.
Well, Shorty got what she deserved. She's guilty.
Yeah. Oh, like 6 years in prison. I
That's
think.
Oh, is
it?
that what she got?
6 years.
Deserves more.
Oh my god, 6 years in a federal penitentiary when you're like a reality star.
Oh, she's
that's
gonna
pretty
get-
good. Like that's pretty hefty for. All of her
I
fillers
feel
gonna
like
dissolve.
she would have. Yeah, I feel like she would have somebody. I don't know. I personally thought they don't go to jail like when you're that famous and that rich.
Exactly. So I think.
so I
Well,
feel
well,
like
you
it's-
get paid. You pay off essentially people higher up is what the impression I get. But if all of her money she's gotten all of her money from defrauding people and stole all her money from her family. Maybe she tried, like she stole all her money from her mom. Poor thing. Maybe that's
know.
what she tried to do, and it just was
Yeah,
not
it wasn't
significant
working.
enough, or. Maybe it reached a person who was like, that's, you know, sometimes they pick and choose, I feel.
Yeah.
Money is not enough, and
There's other
yeah.
factors involved.
yeah, maybe that's what she was using it for, and ultimately that's why she ended up pleading guilty, because I'm sure there was more to stealing all your money from your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like she made her money stealing from old people, but her mom offered up like her retirement savings and everything towards her defense.
Oh, my
So
bad. I thought she
she's-
stole it.
No, she didn't like steal it from her mom. Her mom offered it up, but she accepted it,
It's the type of person she
knowing
is.
she was guilty, and
Yeah.
then pled guilty. I'm like, so you just rinsed like over $1 million from your mama, and you're not even gonna try to fight this anymore? Like that's
really
crazy.
sad.
Yeah,
The amount of love
Really
a parent will
unfortunate.
have knowing
Yeah.
you're guilty.
Unconditional.
Yeah.
It's unconditional.
I know. And then your mom's old, and now she's gonna have to like get a job.
Yeah. That honestly reminds me in high school there was a guy in I knew him from when I was in high school. He was like a pretty popular guy, like so many girls loved him. But in our area what he was doing is he was offering a fake furnace service. And
in high school.
well, he was graduated. I knew
Okay.
him from high school.
Okay,
But he
okay.
was graduated. And he would go specifically to older peoples who had like memory problems, and he knew them in our neighborhood. and he'd go and service their furnace, and he'd do it multiple times, like within a month.
And claim he's doing something.
Yeah, and claim he's fixing something each time, and that he's had to come back or order something
to fix it
when he was doing nothing. And eventually the neighborhood caught on to it, and everybody found out. But he made a lot of money from that. Like, I'm talking 6 figures from doing that to elder people. Like, that is just, I don't know how you have that kind of heart to do that, like to actually sleep at night after you've done something so horrific and horrible.
It's honestly, it's so scary, the type of people who...
Yeah.
It's if you imagine it like this, I've actually realized this. A lot of the times when we imagine people like this, we think of them in a villainous way, where it's like, haha, I'm gonna do this. But sometimes they just do these things and they're fucked up, but they act like normal people.
Yeah.
And they think they're saving themselves, they're doing good for themselves, and they don't like think they're doing anything wrong. And sometimes they do realize it and they just continue. And
yeah, but they put such a, like, you always think from, like, growing up watching cartoons, you think a villain looks like a villain.
Yes.
But
they don't
reality,
always do, yeah.
That's
like
what
Jen
a villain
Shaw.
looks like.
Ooh, you would be such a sexy Shigo from Kim Possible. Oh my god, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm gonna
Shigo.
buy you a black and green jumpsuit.
Oh my god, she'd be so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. But yeah, no, it's like, you know, it's a good point. I mean, Jen Shaw, it kind of looks like a villain.
Kind of.
With those, like, batshit crazy outfits
Yeah.
and, like, cheeks out to here. But
She's giving Cruella de Vil. Is
yeah,
what she is, yeah.
but yeah, Polynesian Cruella de Vil.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like, people look and act and talk just like us, and they're terrible people,
Yeah.
and they're horrifying. Like, just even, I don't know, I can't even imagine doing that to someone. But I think, like, to your point, a lot of people are like, well, you know, I'm doing it for myself. Like, it's the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
is it wrong to steal bread to feed your family?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole debate for another
Yeah,
time,
but
I
also,
guess.
like, defrauding elderly people out of
To
their
save-
savings, always.
Yeah, to save yourself as a young person who can work, you're stealing money from an elderly person who might not physically be capable.
Yeah. And has worked
It's
already their
heartbreaking.
whole life for that.
Literally. That's just...
Yeah, it's so fucked up.
It's a whole nother level of fucked up.
No.
Like, steal from rich people if you're gonna steal from people.
Yeah, be a
Robin
like a
Hood.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, be a Robin Hood. Like, come on, it's
Yeah.
there's plenty out there. Defraud Jeff Bezos.
A little vigilant.
You can afford it. Vigilante.
Vigilante. Listen, English is also one of my first languages, but it's not my only. So I'm just kidding. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the title fraud that has been happening.
Yeah.
So a lot of mortgage fraud, a lot of home frauds. So this has been big news lately, and I don't know if you guys have heard much details about it, but a ton of people have been having their homes sold without their knowledge and their consent, and pretty much there's quite a few stories, and they've discovered that there's been around maybe 30 in the GTA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly, it's really blowing up right now. So that's why I wanted to kind of bring that up, because there's been, like I said, a lot of the title fraud, a lot of the mortgage fraud, and then also people potentially even looking to lease out people's properties without them knowing, even though there's not an exchange of title. That could also be some sort of fraud, like you're getting money out of someone's property and someone's asset under their name.
Well, it's also trespassing.
As well. So there was a situation that was in the news where this lady got her condo sold without her knowledge. So she bought the property. It was around 2017, and then 2019 she went to go live in China. So I believe the home was vacant since 2019, but essentially these scammers had gained access to her property. They trespassed, they gained access to the property managers, and essentially somehow impersonated the owner.
Yeah.
And then eventually that led to them listing the property, and then that led to the property being sold for almost $1 million. And I believe this was last year in January 2022. And the reason why this owner found out was because a couple months of her property management fees did not come out of her account. So had she not checked on that, or had she not been vigilant in checking on that, then she wouldn't have noticed that her property had been sold without her knowing, because she was not in the country. She was living in China. So that, to me, is very scary.
Oh, yeah. Like, I feel like I hate that that's happened. First of all, I feel like it gives us realtors a bad rep. I feel like it's how can like, it just feels like this is something that would happen in a different country or in a different place.
Yeah, like a third world.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's something that would happen here in our homes. Like, this is
because also it's going through so many loops.
Yeah,
which is, like you said, like, it's scary for us as realtors, it's scary for lawyers, for mortgage agents. There's a ton of loops that this type of, like, a transaction will go through, essentially. A lot of professionals, and a lot of people are scared because it's like, how competent can realtors be these days? And
that's the thing that's been blowing my mind, because, like, I've seen about it. I think actually a couple people have been arrested.
Yes, there has been some arrests,
and they're saying that there's, like, a couple of, like, gangs or, like, rings where they're doing this. But the thing is, like, as realtors, we do have, like, checks and balances in place to ensure that things are done properly, right? Like, you have to, like, we have a whole information system, geo warehouse, where we can see who's on title and, like, verify that information. We have to submit certain identification and stuff for, like, the FinTrack obligations, which is like basically like Canada's, like, little finance spies. And they, like, combat terrorism and shit through like fishy stuff. But like FinTrack does a bunch of different stuff, but it's through, like, CSIS. But, you know, like, we do have these checks and balances. Like, who's not doing their due diligence? Because it's not just the seller's agent, it's also the buyer's agent who does this due diligence.
Yeah, there's two people in the transaction.
There's two agents, two lawyers.
And two victims, because also the buyer could be potentially selling their previous home or taking all of their life savings or whatever. They're moving to this property and purchasing it, and now they're losing out on it. And one of the big portions of this is title insurance. When you're purchasing a property, if you don't have title insurance and you experience a fraud like this, are you going to get your money back? Likely not. And even if you do have title insurance, sometimes it takes a little bit because there has to be investigations. There's a lot of people that are involved in the transaction that they have to go through and see what went wrong, what happened. And you know what? Like, doing some research on this topic, there's not a lot of details released on this in terms of who messed up in regards to due diligence, because in reality, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of regulations when it comes to a transaction. This is such a regulated market. Real estate is so regulated. We have something called RICO, Real Estate Council of Ontario, that oversees literally everything and makes sure everything runs smoothly and ensures all the bylaws and everything are being followed by realtors. All the documentations. Yes. So there is so many people involved in every transaction. Even if you work at a brokerage, there are people reviewing your documents. Even after they're signed, before they're signed. Literally. We have mentors, we have colleagues, so many people involved in the transaction. So I find it really hard to believe that there is something like this occurred.
So but so frequently.
So frequently,
as well. It's shocking.
That's the thing. When the first one came out or whatever on the news, I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. And then a couple days later there was a second one, and it's like, how has this happened twice? And then when it came out with, like, the real numbers, like, in the 30s or whatever, like, that's insane. Like, we literally have, like you said, like, we have RICO, we got REBA, OREA, CREA,
oh my god, so many bodies.
TREB, you know, would be the Toronto Real Estate Board. In this instant, that was like, I mean, here we have RAB and we have BREA and whatever.
So those are the different local boards.
Like the boards and stuff. But all of
even
these,
under that, the brokerages
and
well.
The brokerage, broker record, like your mortgage agents. Like, there's so many different, like, organizations, I guess, involved, each with their own set of rules and guidelines that you have to follow to ensure this, like,
and governing bodies as well.
You can't, like, I couldn't even sell my house if, like, my theoretical husband didn't know about it, if he didn't sign off on it. You know, like, you can't even, as the actual homeowner, you can't even sell it without your partner's consent in certain instances, right? How the hell are these strangers selling homes while people are on vacation or on, like, long-term stays or in this particular person's case.
So that makes me think, though, because we watched a short video that went a little bit viral last year in around the springtime from Marketplace on CBC.
Yeah.
And essentially it was, so Marketplace CBC is essentially people going undercover to uncover things happening in like professional settings. And these people went and spoke with like a real estate agent and were inquiring about mortgages essentially, and this real estate agent was pretty much implying that they'll be able to doctor their documents. They have contacts who will be able to doctor the documents to be able to make it seem like they have an income that they don't. He was even mentioning like, even if you don't work, even if you are a stay-at-home mom or whatever. We'll link the video to the article. We'll link the article that has the video as well, including links to all the other articles regarding the home fraud and title fraud. But this one in particular, I think you should take a look because it's really interesting and it is real and it did happen. So that's what makes me kind of think, because there was this mortgage fraud happening, they uncovered this and they got this person in trouble essentially, because it seemed like he was doing this to multiple people. Because if you can see that so freely and get caught on camera, like how else has that occurred with? Like a lot of mortgage fraud happening there. So that kind of makes me think with the title fraud, like is the realtors involved? Like what extent is there?
Are they are
is it an inside
parties exactly?
Yeah, is there like an
together?
inside job happening? Because I cannot imagine being a professional and doing my job, doing my due diligence, because we do go through a bunch of training and regulations. It's a profession. It's not like you know, like it's not a minimum wage job. We get paid lots of money to do our job right, and I find it hard to believe that it got past so many people without inside job.
That's what blows my mind. Like you got to think like there must be like an inside element involved, because how are you not getting caught? But also the thing that when this kind of thing comes up and we hear about this, like why are, if there are agents involved, or this guy from Marketplace last year, you know, why are they risking their career like that? And like, okay, maybe you forge some documents, whatever, you pay like $1,000, whatever it is, to some dude to do that, and maybe you get the $15,000 commission or $10,000 or $5,000 depending on the market, right? Like, okay, that's a good chunk of change, but you're risking your license. And if you just did things legit and you helped a client who could like actually afford a mortgage and whatever, like you could get, like you're risking the longevity of your business and the future of it, because you will lose your license. Yeah,
you will get fined.
You will get fined,
and you could lose jail time. Yeah. See, that's the thing. So you're risking all this. You're putting your energy into the wrong thing. You're doing the wrong thing. You're screwing people over. Karma's going to come and get you, bite you in the butt. You're going to get jail time. You're going to lose your license, all that stuff. You could be putting all that energy into doing things the right way, advertising yourself, because honestly, real estate is a very lucrative career. That's why it's so oversaturated. Tons of agents in this career, and it feels like we're all fighting for the same mango, like I said before. But if you put your energy into the right place and stop scamming people, you could be making a lot of money while actually helping people. And you know what? Some people are just not built for that. And
that's the other crazy thing, is doing this like whole scamming illegal bit that's risking your license isn't going to make you any more money necessarily. If
you're making the same amount.
You're making the same commission.
Unless you're getting paid off, which I think people do.
You could, but
to be involved with that.
So like if you're helping stay-at-home moms forge documents who have no income, how much are they paying you off?
Yeah, the mortgage fraud is the one that's like where you're trying to help people, but you're doing it the wrong way, and you're trying to get deals for people who don't qualify. I think that's different than scamming people in your name. Yeah. I think the mortgage fraud, still illegal. Like the inside, still illegal. Like the mortgage fraud, actually thinking that you're helping people, like you don't make income, you don't qualify, and people will make you qualify. You might think you're doing yourself and someone a good job and you're helping people, but really at the end of the day you're screwing them over too. They're going to be involved in the drama. These people can potentially get jail time too, because they know
they're going to have their house foreclosed.
And not only that, like you're literally putting them in such a compromising position, because if they were able to qualify, then the numbers would be right there and would make sense, but they don't have an income. Look at the economy we're in right now. What are they gonna do when they can't afford their house anymore?
It's gonna come back. Like you said, it's gonna foreclose. Who's gonna pay their mortgage?
Yeah.
It's gonna come back to you, and it's gonna be connected to you.
Yeah.
And somehow, if it means giving you up, then maybe they will. If they have kids, you'll do anything to save your kids and put food into their mouth, have shelter.
Yeah.
I don't understand what people goes through people's minds. Like that's the greed behind the money is just not worth it. And we had an episode prior. We'll have an episode after this. Actually, after this, we'll be talking about finances and budgeting. But it's just something that people need to kind of get a grasp on, so they're not doing illegal stuff like this, because it really ruins everyone's life involved in the situation.
Yeah. It's just been crazy, and like you said before, like it makes so many different people just look incompetent.
And it gives us such a bad rep. It's like unethical. How can you even be involved in something like this? And I mean, we can't say for sure those realtors were right. Like this is just what we think based on the extent of it, just because it just doesn't make sense to us how you can get away through so many levels of governing bodies, like different. How can you get past every single one?
Yeah,
you have to be
working
together. Yeah, you have to be somehow working together. You have to have some kind of deal amongst yourselves. And I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I did see that for the two main houses that were January 2022,
like the condo and then the family that was on vacation,
I saw that it was realtors from the same brokerage, but I was not sure if that was actually confirmed.
Interesting.
But I did see it was the same brokerage.
I saw, oh my god, sorry. So I've been looking for apartments, right? And I was having dinner with my mummy the other day, and we saw something that was a little funny. So it was on, I think we were using MLS, like the Treb MLS. And there were 3 apartment units, all listed through the same brokerage, all stacked on top of each other at the same address. So one was, say, like 805, 905, and 1005, like, for example. I can't remember exactly what the address was, but 3 units that would have been stacked on top of each other, all same brokerage. The only photo for any of them was the front photo of the building, no photos of the interior. The price was like super low, because that's why we initially clicked on it, because we're like, oh my god, that's a great price.
Interesting.
And like very few details, and we were like,
interesting, that's shady.
but it was a lease, so it was for lease, because I'm looking to rent, right? But yeah, we were like, my mom and I.
And it makes you think, because human trafficking has become so prominent, and people need a headquarters for that. Like, you need a place to keep these people that you're stealing.
I know, like that too. Like there's so, like, so many ways to like look at it. But we were like, like my mom and I, like, both realtors, like, we're looking and we're like, that is not right. Like something is going on there. Like, that's like agents from the same brokerage listing this place, like, no photos, really grainy front photo, no information, cheap price. What's going on here?
Red flag.
Like,
ooh, I would have gone. Can we go view it? I'm actually curious.
Oh my god, that would be
good.
Can we actually? We'll go investigate. We'll do a little vlog for you guys and let you know what's up.
Let you know if we get murdered.
Listen.
Or if
no,
we get
I'll
frauded.
fight them. I'll fight them. No problem.
We're jacked.
Yeah, we're jacked. I boxed. I'm such a douchebag. Numar fight.
Newmar fight?
Normal flight. That's what I heard.
Normal flight. No, I normal fight. I just
So I actually have a story time.
Oh my god, baby!
Story time.
Tell me.
Let's hear it.
So in high school, my friend and I had met this guy, and he was a lot older than us, of course. And we just thought we were cool, right? So we'd hang out with him, and you just reminded me when you said human trafficking.
Oh no.
Okay. This was a really close situation, and it was weird. So he was just really like showing us so much interest, and we'd all like hang out. It would always be at really fancy condos. Like one was right off of Lakeshore in Windermere, like downtown. Another one was right at Queensway. Another one was next to Square One. Every time it would be just a different condo, and a really fancy one too. One time we went to a condo and everybody was like hanging out, and this family comes through the door And funny enough, it was an Asian family. And they start screaming like, this is our home. What are you guys doing in here?
Oh, shit.
We're 16. Like, we are like, we don't know what's happening. And they're like fighting back and forth, but we actually all end up leaving. So I don't know how they were getting access to these units. But like, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think any of them owned or were renting any of these units. And they were like definitely involved in something, because there was always
Something
a lot
sketchy.
of women, always a lot of younger girls too.
That's interesting, because we were talking about the Airbnb in a episode coming up after this. And
defying time
I
and
find
space.
well, like, that's the thing. I find that there's a lot of surveillance. I think a lot of these houses most of the time are vacant. One of the situations that happened in the title fraud, the family was on vacation. So for an extended period of time, their house was likely watched. The other lady from China who lives in China, she was out of the country for maybe like 3-4 years. Her condo was likely watched. I'm sure there is probably people watching, like, you probably have access on MLS.
And they probably have inside people in the buildings too.
100%.
Probably.
There's
like, these
always connected.
Was that one a new build?
No, because she bought the property in 2017.
But it was fairly new.
It might have been fairly new.
Because all these buildings, like from the situation back in high school, were fairly new. All these condos.
My friend has actually has
Yeah.
a conspiracy theory. She thinks that a lot of foreigners will buy properties in Toronto and keep it vacant and hold it to bring the market down. Yeah, that's her conspiracy theory. I don't agree with her, but
interesting.
There is a ton. If you think about it, though, there is so much. Like
that would bring the rental market up.
Yeah,
and then you could.
But in terms of
like sale prices,
and
buying
so that they
places.
can purchase more. Yes.
Yeah.
But then that's a good thing that they have.
Such a large amount of people would have to do that to have that effect. Yeah. Like, maybe. I mean, maybe there's some Discord board.
Yeah. I mean, I think she might have heard like a news report somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm going to follow up with her on that. But it is interesting because it's almost relevant to the topic that we are talking about. Like, the guy that you talked to, I find that that's been happening a lot more frequently. Like, I'm not surprised. I feel like it's not as uncommon as we think it is, especially with condos in Toronto.
Yeah. I know, it just seems so fucking crazy.
And like when we're going to be talking about an Airbnb episode where people, are watched essentially. And I think that could be another way people can scout people for human trafficking essentially. They
definitely using
surveil you. Yeah, and they can sell your data off of Airbnb. I'm not sure if this actually happens, but I can tell that this could be a tactic. Yeah. It's something people should be wary of and be careful when doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of horrifying stuff in the fraud and the human trafficking front.
They arrested a couple people in Hamilton.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Oh my god. For all of our Hamilton people out there, this cop that I was frequenting the fuck out of here. No, this cop that I sometimes go on dates with. He told me to not go to the Sandman Hotel by 50 Road. Apparently, quite a bit of human trafficking.
Why didn't you tell us sooner, you stupid bitch?
I think I've told you guys, but I'm just letting the viewers
Sandman
know.
Hotel
the Sandman Hotel
in Hamilton?
In like Hamilton going
off
into
Barton.
Garsby.
Like Centennial.
Yeah, like Centennial and
I
50.
drive by there all the time.
Yeah,
same with the Sandman Hotel in Mississauga. I actually work there.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's on Dixie, right next to the 401.
A lot of human trafficking there?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you had a story about...
I had a really negative experience at that hotel.
Yeah.
I worked there. Don't go to that hotel.
And the flight, like when you're a flight attendant too, apparently that happens frequently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had...
Super fucked.
Actually, Sunwing, like, there's been... Well, one of the flight attendants I work with, she caught a human trafficking case. But also Sunwing, there has been some rumor, I don't know like how legitimate this is, but that there is a human trafficking operation going on between the staff at the Punta Cana, Dominican Republic airport with Canada. So they say that they have been caught human trafficking.
That's actually scary.
It's fucking terrifying. There was a story sometime in the last calendar year, like since my friend moved to Toronto, June, I don't know, but there was a kid. Oh, I think my sister told me about this because she lives in Toronto too. Anyways, there was this kid, like, by like a street corner, like looking lost.
I know about this.
Yeah.
Tell me.
And he asks for money for a bus or something.
Yeah, he asks for help and blah blah blah, and like someone stood nearby and kind of watched this all go down for like a half hour or so. And this kid just kept approaching single women. And that was it. And they kept being like, oh, you know, like go, like maybe try going in that convenience store, like whatever, that kind of thing. And then after a while of not being able to get anyone to come, sorry, I just hit your mic, but after a while of not being able to get anyone to like come with him somewhere, like, and again, like young, like 10, he goes back to this big group of guys standing in an alley and is like talking to them. And it looks like,
oh my
like,
God.
You know, like obviously to this person who saw it and like posted this wherever it was, the obvious conclusion is that they have this kid, whatever the relation being, literally luring women in who are like trying to find someone who like takes pity on this poor kid who looks like he lost his mom on the streets of Toronto all by himself.
That's so fucked up. And you know what, the person watching is so smart, because like I feel like all of us could fall victim to that. We have such big hearts, and I feel like these days you have to be careful, and I feel like maybe that is something we would have to do. Like if we see a situation like that, we have to stand back and observe before even approaching it, and then make the right decision whether or not to help them or not. It's fucked up. They're really getting kids involved and vulnerable people. There's a lot of beggars these days in Hamilton, and I'm just so on the fence about helping, because you really never know. And
I'm just terrified about like going near anyone, even like leasing and stuff in Hamilton. Like just meeting people at properties, especially for whatever reason, basement properties are so much scarier to me. And I think they're all equally scary, and I'm just delusional because I have like a thing with basements. But you know, like people will come up, like I'll be meeting people and I'm like, oh, there's 2 of you, I'm scared.
I would not want to be ganged up on. I would be pretty terrified if I was meeting with someone that I didn't vet extensively, but since we are all very competent realtors, we go through an extensive vetting process before even meeting everyone who even inquire about any property or any service. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying with the title fraud. Like there's such an extensive process even before a transaction ends, before even meeting a client. Like I will not meet a client without seeing your ID, without video calling you, without knowing what you do, who your family is, even engaging in just casual conversation, just to see how it goes organically. Like you vet before you even really begin. Because like we want to make sure you're not a serial killer. Which is actually a concern these days. Very concerning. But B too, like if someone's like, oh, you know, like I don't know, I'm like a substitute teacher at a school and I'm single, my budget is $10 million. Oh yeah, red flag. I've had one of those actually. I've had a leasing client who's had he was self-employed, and he had like apparently arbitrage in outside of the province is all I'll say. I don't know what arbitrage is. Essentially like Airbnb. Oh, okay. Yeah, like short-term rentals like that. Oh, okay. And quite a few numerals in his bank account is all I'll say, with no explanation as to where it came from. So it was a little sketchy. Shaw vibes. Yeah. And interesting enough, his partner was a teacher. That's all I'll say. Yeah, it was just not adding up. It was just not adding up, and like they were cool, but like, where'd you get your money from? Like, did you win the lottery? Do you own humans, or like what's going on? Like, if your average salary is $70,000 and your budget is $42 million, like the math isn't mathing, you know? Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't make sense. No, and I feel like I actually feel like scammers are really good at what they do. They know exactly how to pick their victims out, like talking about that. It's a profession. Boy. Yeah, it really is. And they actually, sad enough, they feed off of the vulnerable. They know who to pick depending on what scam they're going for. Yeah. So a lot of people who want to scam women or like even lure women, they always use children. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a gang initiation happening. I think it was around 2014.
I can't really remember the exact date, but what they were doing is they'd be pulled over to the side, and it would actually be a woman, and she would have a baby and appear to be helping her baby, and it would always be on the side of a dark road, and everybody who stopped would always be a woman, and they would like kidnap them or hurt them or rob them.
I've heard that from a serial killer situation before. I feel like that's such a common situation.
So that's how they always like they study who would be. It's kind of like how
we go to school to do real estate, look at the regulations and stuff. They study who the vulnerable people, who the victim is. It's interesting, but fucked up.
I remember I was at the train station in my hometown, and I was in the car with my best friend. I think we were picking a friend up maybe, or we were waiting for my sister or something. I don't know. We're getting someone from the train, or we're at the train station for whatever reason. And this guy is just walking, and we had the windows down. We're listening to music. We're like hanging out. And he's like, "Oh, excuse me. My car battery died. Can you boost my car?" And I'm like, absolutely fucking not. But my buddy is like, nice guy. He's like, yeah, for sure. And the guy's, okay, cool. Like, it's just over there. And then he's like, okay, cool. Like, I'll drive over. And this dude literally starts like doing like cartwheels and shit, like acting like a fucking crackhead over to his car, like all the way across the train parking lot to this like empty, like the very like back
oh my
to
God.
this fucking like pedo van. And I'm like with my friend James, I'm like, Jimbo, we are not helping that man. He goes, oh my God, it's so cold out. He's probably just a drug addict. And I said, I do not fucking care. We are not helping that man. I'm going to get murdered today. And that's not in my itinerary. And he's like, okay, well, like, what do you want to do about it? I don't want him to like come back and talk to us. I'm like, I'm going to call the cops. And I'm just going to call non-emergent and just say like, hey, there's a guy at this location. He says he needs a boost, whatever. We drove halfway over there. This guy's light in the car is fully on. So if your battery is dead, your lights aren't turning on. Like his car wasn't on, but like the inside light was, right? And I'm like, oh my God. So I call the cops. I'm like, yeah, this guy needs a boost apparently. One of his lights on. Can you go check it out? I'm pretty sure he's trying to abduct me. And the cop's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And so we went and parked just a little bit up the road so we could like see what was going down.
Yeah, you're curious.
Yeah. So we were like, fuck it. We're going to hang out here. So we pick up our friend, whatever, and then we go park. We were there for 45 minutes. We see this cop like try to help him. His car's running fine. So the cop's like, okay, like have a good day. And then this guy shuts off his car, walks back across, and waves down another car. So I called 911 and I said, there is someone at Applebee Go trying to abduct people. Yeah. You guys just helped him. His car is fine. He's trying to lure people to a back lot. Go do something about it. Yeah. And then like 3 cop cars rolled up.
Oh shit.
That is freaky.
That's wild. Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, like, you know, and like the act, like the cartwheels, like
it's more common than we think.
The like whole cartwheel thing though is like, what was the red flag for me? If that guy walked over normally, I probably would have assumed it was like a normal person who like needed a hand.
Thank God.
The whole being of
he was feeling a little quirky.
And also the fact that his car was so far out, and like you wouldn't park that far, like
and his light was on inside.
Yeah, like I would have noticed that when I got closer, but like this guy's car was parked super far out, so like unless, you know, like it was at night on a weekend, like unless he'd been there like at rush hour in the morning, like when people are on their commute to Toronto, like he wouldn't have had to park that far out. If he had parked there that day, his car would have been a lot closer. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's a little weird, but like I don't know when he got here and like how long his car's been there. And yeah, he starts doing fucking cartwheels and shit. I'm like, lunatic.
Yeah, literally.
And like the dead of winter too. But I like, you know, so don't fucking do it. Don't help people. I don't care what you, like if anyone asks you for help, call non-emergent, send a cop over, they will help.
I mean, or wait 30 minutes, observe, see who else they ask, if they lure them back or kidnap them, and then, you know, make judgment then.
Yeah. Only make a call then.
I like blatantly outright lie to people if they're like, oh, can you, I'm like, sorry, I don't have arms, and I just keep walking. Like,
I'm like, sorry, these arms they just don't exist.
Okay, but that makes me think though, because there was, okay, this is kind of conflicting to me, like I have internal confliction, if that's even a term, but there's this video that went viral on Facebook, and there was this woman, this ring light that was posted of this woman, this neighbor standing out there watching and hearing her neighbor get kidnapped. So there is a woman who got literally, I think this was real, she got kidnapped. She was screaming, help me, help me, help me, and she got thrown into a car, and you can hear the cries, help me, getting quieter and quieter. And the video went viral because people were talking crap about this neighbor, saying she's just standing there. How come no one did anything? How come this guy got away with driving away with this girl? Because, I mean, if you can continue to hear that, like, what kind of kidnapping scheming is this to quickly just put someone in the car and then drive off? Like, clearly something did occur. She's screaming.
You gotta call 911.
Call 911. You're just standing there observing. It's absurd. Or even just, like, going to collect the license plate number or something. If you're scared for your life, there's other things you can do. You don't have to directly approach physically for your own safety, but you can do something about it. And that was so scary for me, because I'm like, what if, God forbid, something happens to me in public? I might not be safe.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will jump in and have that sort of like cult-like mentality we've always talked about. Or they could just stand there, observe like a bystander. Like the bullying we used to grow up and see and witness, that was a concerning issue, right?
Yeah.
People would get bullied, there'd be bystanders. That's sort of where that term emerged, right? And now people are getting human trafficked, and the same thing could occur. Bystanders just sitting there not helping you.
I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen this before. Like, there's always these videos that go viral of people like staging like domestic abuse in public or that kind of thing to see if people will step in.
Oh, I saw like a social experiment.
Like a social experiment, yeah. I saw one where they staged a little girl walking down the street, like coming out of a corner store, and
to see if there's any creeps.
A grown man literally grabbed her and threw her in a trunk.
Okay.
And it was like a staged social experiment.
And no one
they redid it like 20 times. One dude stepped in and helped the girl. Like one guy. Everyone else like looked and just kept walking and was like, oh my God, but just kept going. Like no one pulled out a phone to like call the police or anything. Like
that
nothing.
Is terrifying.
And like a busy, crowded area. Insane.
That makes me want to vomit.
Like, call the cops. Like, I probably wouldn't approach because I would be overpowered and murdered. But I'd call the cops, or I'd try to get a plate, or I would do something. Like,
oh my, I can't imagine. Like, I honestly, that makes you lose faith in humanity. Like, I can't imagine going, even just witnessing that. Maybe that is a human trafficking thing, but like, I will still call the cops. I'll still collect the plate, like you said. Like, I don't understand how people just have the heart to just stand there. Maybe it's not your business, but like a little kid's just getting kidnapped, murdered
in front of you.
It is a bit like, it could, everything's connected. There could be a domino effect. Maybe that will one day affect you and your children. Like, it doesn't matter. You see something happening, a poor child above anything getting hurt, kidnapped. Do something about it. Even if it's just calling the cops or telling somebody or whatever, do something. I cannot believe that's a thing. And I've seen social experiments like that before. Not a lot of people get involved. They don't care.
Yeah, I understand like the self-preservation, but like you said, like you can do something.
There's always something that can be done.
Or even I've seen the social experiments where there's like a guy playing a pedophile, trying to hit on a little girl. Not a lot of people step in.
Oh, I don't like to watch those kind of things because it just makes you sick, and it makes you really lose faith in humanity, honestly. Everybody is just so centered around themselves and their needs. Like, look at how fast we can move on from tragic events. Like, they impact us for like a second, and then we blink and we have to move on, because that's just how life works now. Like, that's just how life is. We don't even have time to be impacted by.
Can you imagine how good this world would be if people could even do one good thing every day? One tiny good thing.
One thing a day,
Even, like, just pay it forward. Even if it's just picking up a piece of garbage or, just, like, opening the door for someone, something. Because these things add up, and maybe someone's going through something, and you do one small little thing that could, change someone's perspective of, oh my God, this person held the door for me. Maybe someone does care. Or even just calling the cops on someone when you witness something crazy like human trafficking. These little things add up. I mean, that's a big thing, but people really there needs to be more done, and I like we're starting to lose a bit of faith in humanity.
Everybody just wants to turn a blind eye.
I don't understand.
And like that gets us nowhere. No, and that makes like everything so much more dangerous.
Yeah, for everybody. Like, because if you are deliberately ignoring that situation, what if you were in it? Like, I mean, if you're gonna be selfish in that situation, one day someone's gonna have to be selfless to save you. So why can't you save this person?
Yeah, like that crazy person at the train station. I was like, I could just go about my business, but like someone's getting abducted tonight.
Literally. Or even that time I almost got kidnapped. I talked about this in another episode. In that bus, I was a young, vulnerable girl by herself, 16 years old, easy target. But thank God I was smart enough to realize the signs and didn't walk home alone.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, like not funny haha, but like funny like the more like we like talk about this kind of thing, the more stories keep coming into my head. I completely forgot that happened to me until we were talking about it just now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's a lot more I think that I've probably experienced that.
Yeah,
you just have to sort of dig deep into these topics in order to kind of be able to
like
remember
those memories
because
out,
it's almost even traumatic sometimes, because even though something didn't actually happen to you, but the thought of
the
being
potential,
so close to danger is terrifying.
And I feel like the normalcy of it too, like it just like disappears from my brain, like
because it's so often, sadly.
Yeah, I was even telling Philip about
who's Philip?
Guys, I'm breaking the fourth wall a little bit here, but we were talking about this earlier, but my ex-boyfriend would always think I was so dramatic because I didn't like walking around at the city, like in the downtown core at night. And one day someone was like catcalling me from their car, and he's like, oh my God, just ignore it. And then these people pulled their car over and got out and started following us. And he's like, you're so dramatic. I'm like, we're being followed. Like they were screaming at me on the street. They got out and now they're following us back to your house.
Yeah. That is not dramatic.
It's so common. That actually reminds me, when I was, one of my first apartments that I had, I was walking my dog alone, a corgi, in the middle of the day on a busy street, Mohawk Street, Mohawk Road, near like one of the busiest intersections in Hamilton. Yeah. Like Hamilton Mountain. Just walking him middle of the day, and this car I was about to cross like the entrance of like a driveway to an apartment building. The car pulls up, stops in front of me while I'm walking my dog. Hey, what kind of dog is that? Corgi. Why? He's like, oh, he's cute. I was like, okay, thanks. And they wouldn't move. I'm trying to get past because they're parked on the sidewalk. And they're like, okay, cool, like, you know, do you have any other dogs? I was like, no. It was just really absurd questions. They kept asking me for my phone number, for my Instagram. I just kept saying, I don't have one. I don't have this. I don't have that. And they kept bothering me in the middle of the daylight. No one stepped in. No one said anything. It was a very obviously absurd situation.
And, you can see the discomfort.
And I was alone with just my dog. I eventually just kind of talked them away and brushed them off. And I was just like, sorry, gotta go. And they eventually drove off. But I was kind of worried about going back because this was the end of my walk with my dog. Mm-hmm. I had the poop, and maybe they did target me because they saw I had poop in my hand. And usually, as a dog owner, that's an indicator that you're almost done your walk. Yeah, you're almost home, and you're So I was worried. So I had to wait until I visually saw that they were gone, and eventually I went home because I was very close to home.
Yeah,
I don't live there anymore, thank God. But but that's the thing too. Even having my corgi, which is cute, when he was a puppy. People would holler across the street from windows, from cars. Oh my God, is that a corgi? So cute, which is cool, but like so creepy at the same time. Like,
you just don't know you don't know if anybody's intention, and it's so sad. You want it to be like a good world we live in, but it just isn't.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, you know, people like offering like an actual compliment or like a nice comment about like your puppy or whatever.
Yeah,
used to just be nice. Like now, sometimes it's like.
Yeah. It could have even been him trying to steal my dog, because those are permanent dogs too. Like,
I've had like a lot of friends who have had that kind of like situation where they've had like a desirable dog, I guess, and people have been like, oh, can I hold your dog? And they're like, get the fuck off.
Can I hold your dog?
Yeah, I'm so protective over him because I know there's a lot of people literally, I'm gonna kidnap Naya. Her dog,
so cute.
Oh
my God.
Like our kids are dating. Like I approve of this marriage.
And they have a stepsister.
Yeah, they're so feelers.
Ophelia. We'll get an episode hopefully one day with all of them in here. We're probably gonna have to give them like CBD or something, but
yeah, literally
for them to just chill and sit here. But
mine's a little crackhead from time to time. She gets the little zoomies.
Yeah, I love that they're both like a little Oreo color, and then Taro's like a little like they kind of make s'mores all together.
Yeah. Cute.
They're so cute. Oh my God, you're making me miss my kitty cat.
See, now this is what the world needs more of.
Sorry,
talk and not scam.
Gotta go. Snuggle
one step at a time. I think if we keep having these conversations and, you know, talking with our loved ones and things like that, being a little bit more aware and setting the right example.
Yeah.
I think one day the world will get to where it needs to be and filter out the people that maybe make it a bad place. I honestly don't believe there is evil, but I also don't believe that the people who are evil think they are evil.
Yeah.
They think they're just being selfish. So I think if we try to shift that mentality a little bit and spread awareness, hopefully one day it can make a difference.
For sure. Like, we're honestly, we can just, is that like a Gandhi saying, I think? Be the change you want to see in the world. Like, we gotta start with ourselves and then go from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with yourselves, and then you can start to emulate that energy to others, and hopefully that will work.
One day.
Now, taking it back kind of to where we started with the crazy stories of scamming, what would you say, like, Sharon, like, as a realtor, what would you say we can do better? Like, do you feel like there's other steps we can implement to avoid these kind of situations?
Yeah, I think we sort of had a conversation about this before. I think there could be additional steps in terms of even prior to submitting information to FinTrack, which is with real estate, it's sort of like that governing body in terms of validating people's identities and trying to prevent, like,
it prevents fraud and
all that stuff.
And like terrorism
and
like
stuff
terrorist
like that.
cells,
Yeah,
renting houses.
so it's that additional step to validate people's identities.
Mm-hmm.
I think instead of maybe validating one ID, you can maybe validate two. There's a lot more background information people could be doing. I know me and you and Jill already do that, and a lot of our peers and colleagues already do that, but I think that's an additional step people could be doing, researching clients, researching our prospects, doing background search even before proceeding in a transaction. And sometimes it could be someone you already know, so you could still, I feel like if you are doing a transaction with someone you already know, don't skip that step.
Yeah, you still have
to do that extensive the due diligence, because my grandma always used to tell me growing up, and this is irrelevant to the current situation or topic, but my grandma always told me, if your friend shows up to the door and asks you to do something weird, don't do that. I don't know. It sounds more interesting in Farsi, but she would tell me if even if someone shows up to your door claiming they know your friend, don't go with them. It's kind of how she put it. But
my mom even always said, like, growing up, like, if daddy picks you up from school, no, he's not. Or if auntie or grandma, if anyone but me gets you from school, do not go with them. Like, if any of my friends, any family, like, anyone. Because you don't know, like, I mean, you'd like to think that everyone in your life is, like, normal and whatever, but you don't.
So there's additional steps in terms of like identifying and validating their identity. What were you thinking?
Yeah, honestly, probably the same thing, like checking more than one ID. Be a creep. We all have access to social media.
That's a big
Check them out online.
Like,
you can get.
We had a situation where we were doing a lease for a client, and we looked at their social media, and they had such vulgar posts.
They had really extremely vulgar posts that totally didn't represent the way they were carrying themselves. And these posts, like, we're not talking just like vulgar things we don't agree with. No, they were abusive comments, really crossing the line. Like, it would be dangerous to other tenants we would have had in the, because
it was like a fourplex in that situation.
So we got to make sure that we're fully checking people out, because again, when it's a building or a fourplex, we're putting these people to be amongst others in the community, and we need to just make sure we're doing good and not doing harm. If we're not checking their backgrounds properly, if we're not checking their IDs properly, we don't know who we put amongst everyone else, and we don't know we've just turned someone's safe home into an unsafe environment.
Exactly. Even their references, I always do a social media check. I call their references.
That they exist.
Exactly.
LinkedIn to make sure the work, like who the supervisor is, it matches up.
If they give me a number, I don't call that number. I look up the
up the
company, and then I find the number through the official website after validating that company.
What I even do, I don't even call, like, the person listed. I'll call human resources if I can, or, like, I'll call, like, an admin assistant or a secretary. I go, hey, can you put me in the direction of human resources? I have a question about this person, whatever.
Perfect.
I had that situation where someone sent me, like, fake pay stubs and whatever, and they said that they were subcontractors for the company, but they were actually, I finally got a hold of, like, someone who, like, knew what was going on, and they had been, like, denied after interviewing. Like, they didn't get the job.
Oh, wow.
It sounds
and they just really, it's scary. Everything can be now, like, forged, essentially.
Yeah.
We have the technology which we're using for great things, but that same technology people are using for bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're abusing it.
Yeah.
And we've also had another situation where we had someone who doctored their documents.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I've seen so much of that lately. I have a little rule, like, I will Google everyone, like, check out their Facebook, Instagram, like, whatever I can find. If I can't find anything and they're, like, older, I'm like, okay, that's not sus.
Yeah.
But if I find stuff and it's all, like, brand new, I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's sketchy.
If all of your accounts have been created in the last month, absolutely not. I'm not meeting up with you. You're a serial killer.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, it's nothing that we haven't experienced. Like, we've had people doctoring their documents or just pretending to be a certain way that they're not. It unfortunately is something that happens more frequently than most people think, but
yeah,
we do our due diligence and we catch it and we move on.
Exactly.
So ultimately, as realtors, we like to make sure we catch these things ahead of time before it gets too deep.
Yeah, and I feel like just continuing to follow what we've been taught, continuing to follow our code of ethics, continuing to question ourselves, like when we're doing things, like you said.
Even asking each other. We always call each other up when we need a second opinion, and I think that's so helpful in these types of situations.
Call the broker of record at your brokerage if you're confused on something. Like, to use every resource you have to verify identities, verify information, like even down
lawyers,
to, like, square footage, like lawyers.
You can call your mortgage agent too that you work with. All realtors will always have like an agent that they usually work with, and there's always ways you can qualify people. Like, they can double check their financial information, and we'll get a lawyer to look at their legal stuff, and then we'll look at their look them up on Geo Warehouse and things like that. There's so many steps to that, and so much due diligence we can take, and steps that we can go about double checking things.
And just finishing up there, like as I was saying, ensure you're a moral person, and you're following like the right set of values, and then ask yourself, am I being too comfortable because I know this person, right? And it goes back to what your grandma said. We might know people, but we have to still do our jobs. It's not like when we go to the store, just because we know the person working there, it's not like we take the items and we walk out just because we're friends. No, we still go through the right motion. We still go through the right process. And ultimately, maybe the governing bodies after these situations, they want to crack down on the fines and on the jail time, and just make the punishment as serious as it can be, so it can set the example. This is not the route you want to follow. There has to be a consequence.
Because that's the thing, the consequences come, the punishments come for people to learn not to do it. It's like when you're a kid, well, back in the day they used to beat their kids because it's like, okay, this hurts, so don't do it. It's you know, like, they thought that's how kids would learn. Unfortunately, that's not the case these days. It's abuse, but the punishment is a form of trying to teach people, and people will still continue to do it, even if they get a slap on the wrist. But that's fine. That's what we are here for. We're good realtors. We do our due diligence, and we prevent these types of things from happening.
Awesome.
So, that pretty much concludes this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys ever have any questions regarding this type of topic, if you ever are afraid that someone's trying to sell your house without knowing, let us know. If you have any questions regarding this, let us know. We're always here. DM us, call us, text us, whatever. We're down to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching. You guys can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, YouTube,
Instagram,
TikTok, everywhere at your.home.girls. And I'll also put up our personal socials here. I'm at Sharon.Musavi on Instagram.
Fatima Salama Green.
Jillian McLeod.realestate.
And thank you so much, guys. We will talk to you soon.
See you next time.
See you next time.